Hey, aloha, everybody. This is Jeff Reinebold, another edition of Coffee with Coach, and my man Mike is jumping on with us right quick. Michael, how was Spain? First of all, before we get into football, let's talk a little bit of your little holiday down in España.
Esta de la Loca, buenas noches. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to get away. I'm a bit red. I'm not gonna lie.
I was going to say, but you came through it a little better than I thought you were going to be today. I thought you would be just
You thought I
absolutely.
was still in Spain last night. You thought I was still there. So fair play for thinking I was still there, which thank God I'm not. No, I got home at the weekend, so loved it. I was saying, Jeff, I seen a few NFL fans out there. There was a Patriots fan on the flight home. God help him. And there was also Dolphins fans as well. So interesting.
You know what? Dolphins fans, particularly when you go to the UK, always see a lot of Dolphins fans. And we got a question today from one of the Dolphins fans, which we're going to get to. And it's a question that I get a bunch when we talk about the Dolphins, and it has to do with Tua. And I think, we're going to delve into some of the issues that Tua has faced in his time with the Miami Dolphins. And, again, he's a kid from here. He's a great kid. I'm rooting for him big time to succeed. But I think the journey is going to be not, I won't say a long one, but it's going to be an interesting one for Tua.
It's been since we last spoke, it's been quiet, but it hasn't been quiet. There's been stuff going on. Aaron Donald, Jeff, is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. A huge bonus yesterday. Can someone tell me, Jeff, where the Rams are getting their money from? Where are they finding this cap space? This is incredible stuff.
Well, we said this all along that one of the most important hires that a coach has got to make, or an organization has got to make, is it used to be the head coach. Then the head coach, you better get yourself a great offensive line coach. Well, now you better have a capologist that can use your numbers to advantage, because if you can't manage the cap, you can't survive in this NFL. And obviously the Rams have a way that they're getting it done, and everybody is going to start following it, because the money that they have shelled out on their superstars, and it is a organization that believes in that mentality that you pay your superstars. And I'm all for paying Aaron Donald, because in my mind, Aaron Donald affects the game every single snap as a defensive lineman. This totally blows away the pay structure in the NFL, because defensive linemen, particularly tackles, were never, those were never big money guys. It was always the ends, the edges, the pass rushers, the corners maybe. But now, oh man, that is a lot of salad on his plate.
Just before we get our guest on in a couple of seconds, really looking forward to this chat tonight. Do you think Aaron Donald was ever serious about retiring, or do you think he was just playing the game?
Well, I'm sure, he doesn't, quote, need the money, right? He could be independently wealthy if he stepped away from football tomorrow. But I just didn't see the way he responded at the Super Bowl and the comments after the Super Bowl. I really think that he sees that they have a chance to go back. And it's tough to get back. We talk about that all the time. But he sees that they've got a chance to get back. And if you got a chance, how about that for your legacy, to be a multiple repeat Super Bowl champion? Very, very, very few guys who've ever played the game can say that. And I think that intrigues him.
Excited to bring our guest on, Jeff. Do you want me to introduce him, or do you want to introduce him?
No, I'm gonna take a whack at this. Now, we talk all the time that this is a fan show, and it is. And we try and do a little bit of a fan feature every now and then. And we're bringing on a guy here who is really, what's cool, I think, is he's a huge NFL fan, a huge football fan, and he's found a way to make football, his passion for football, his life's work also. This is Ben Mortimer, and Ben is a huge Ravens fan. All right. That's first. We're going to talk about your Ravens fandom first, and then we'll get into touchdown trips, because that's a real cool business that you have, and you guys do an amazing job. Ben, why the Ravens? What was it about the Ravens that made you say that's my club?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on, Coach. Good evening. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Good. Good to see you, by the way. But no, the Ravens. I kind of fell into it. I couldn't not support the Ravens because I actually moved to Baltimore. So I went there in 2001 for a unrelated job. It's not kind of related. It was travel, but very loosely. It was flights, so it wasn't really what I do now. And I was 22, so basically, I knew a guy who needed an office setting up in America. I was kind of on a year out kind of thing. I was meant to be going to become a lawyer, so I had like a place at law school, and I had a year out, and I thought, okay, yeah, you're giving me a job to basically go out on my own and set up an office. I'll do anything. I don't know what the job is, but I'll do it. Where's Baltimore? I had no clue. All I knew about Baltimore was the first thing I thought of when he mentioned I was moving to Baltimore was Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Lecter, because he was in a sanitarium in Baltimore. So that's all I could think of. But anyway, moved out there. I'd been there a few months. I moved there in I think it was April '01. And I was just outside of DC for the first 6 months. So I was just kind of, but I didn't know much about the game at that point. So I was kind of getting into it because of the preseason was starting. I was still just outside of DC. I was this close to being a Washington fan, and then I got relocated to Baltimore for basically September that year. So I moved there like the week before the season started. Again, at 22, didn't really know anyone, so I went out. That first weekend, I made some friends. They said, "You got to come to the bar Sunday and watch the Ravens play." And I'm like, "Who are the Ravens?" So it was a couple of weeks of basically socializing before I kind of was fully focused on what was happening on the TV. And then within kind of 3 weeks, I'm going to, why are they throwing that flag? And what does that mean? And what's this guy's purpose? And why do they keep switching, from offense to defense? And who are these special teams guys? And I just got immersed in it. So within a year, I remember watching the playoffs because they made the wild card that year with Elvis Gerback, amazingly, and they still they won a wild card game. They got defeated in the divisional round against the Steelers, and by then I was kind of all in. So I went to my first couple of games in '02, '03. I bought season tickets on eBay, and then in '04 I got PSLs, and I got to go. I was very lucky that I was living downtown. I made some really good friends that tailgated before the game, so we'd meet at 8:30, 9 o'clock every game day outside M&T, and it was a routine. And I just lived for September to come around so we could go to the stadium, and then I started going to away games, and that's kind of where this came from. I just love traveling to watch games, and so I'm lucky, and I'm very lucky that I've seen so many Ravens games. So, and I think what appealed to me as well is that I'm a Newcastle fan. You might see Alan Shearer behind me, little bobblehead, and this kind of a one-team city with kind of a stadium as the mecca of all things, on game day, and obviously Baltimore is a one-team city too, and everyone bleeds purple and black. So and also that at that time it was a very ugly. No one liked the Ravens. It was the kind of post 2000 smash mouth. Win ugly. You score 10 points and the defense does the rest kind of thing. And it was, Ray Lewis obviously is the leader, and basically we didn't really have an offense. We had, kind of a lot of troubles at quarterback, and it was kind of hopefully Todd Heap can make a couple of catches on a weekly basis. Hopefully Jamal Lewis can, run it down their throats. And it was just a great time to be a fan, and that kind of made me like them more. In that people didn't really like the way the Ravens played, but they still won.
Well, I think that it's almost poetic justice that the Ravens would save the world from one more lawyer, right? And I think that's outstanding. But take me inside the stadium, because one of the things that I used to love to watch when we do a Ravens game, and any time that they were on TV, and Ray Lewis's intro. What was the stadium like when he would get out there and all of a sudden through the fog, he'd be out and do his thing?
It was goosebumps. It was hairs on the back of the neck, and it sounds sort of corny, but if you were a Ravens fan and you were waiting for that intro, the Ravens do the stadium thing really well. Some teams do it better than others, but the player intros was always big, and you always look forward. They always did alternate, so they do offense one week, and defense the other. But yeah, when Ray came out, and they'd play Nelly and Hot in Here, and he'd get that turf and do his dance, do the squirrel. It was it was definitely hairs on the back of the neck, and often you'd have the opening game of the season where Ray would do that, and you'd have the Jets fly overhead, and you couldn't beat that pre-game. Everyone was pumped.
As a Raven fan, a guy that fell in love with the team, and obviously they had so much success. To watch him that last season when he's struggling with a bad elbow, most guys probably couldn't have played. He found a way onto the field, and found a way onto the field, not just onto the field. He found a way to be a difference maker down the stretch. That Super Bowl, was that your favorite Ravens Super Bowl championship?
Well, yeah, because I'd missed the first one by like 2 months. I mean, I became a fan just after they won Super Bowl 35. So, but that was fairly magical, and it's kind of typical Ray in that unless his arm had literally been torn off, he wasn't going to miss that playoff run. And even though doctors said there's no way you're going to be able to, play, your career's done pretty much. And yeah, I mean, even though he obviously dropped off in his last few seasons, he was still maintaining a level that was so high compared to a lot of other linebackers in the league at that time. That it was fairy tale, and the same for Ed Reed as well. It was Ed Reed's last season for the Ravens. Obviously, he didn't retire, but to see Ray and Ed Reed play together for basically the prime of their career, I consider myself very fortunate. To me, that's as good as being able to watch Peyton Manning or Tom Brady in the prime of their careers as a kind of with an offensive team. But to see those guys, and also we were spoiled. We had such a good defense, and it was like people like Bart Scott, Terrell Suggs, Adalys Thomas that was a beast. Haloti Ngata I got his rookie jersey and still one of my favorite players. So it was amazing.
A couple of things, just side notes. When we went to Minnesota for the Super Bowl in Minnesota, the Eagles Super Bowl in Minnesota, I had an opportunity. They had a thing, a bunch of Polynesian people got together and they put together a luau at in Minnesota, of all places, as cold as it was for that Super Bowl. And Haloti was there. And I have a picture of me next. Now, I'm not a big guy, and he is a big guy. But when you stand next to Haloti Ngata, his head reminds me of a buffalo's head. I mean, his head is like that big. I mean, he is an impressive man. The other Raven guy that I don't know if you have had an opportunity to know his story, but I had a player in 1991. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm sorry. It was 93. His name was O.J. Brigance. And O.J. was an outstanding linebacker and then left the CFL, went to the Dolphins, and then went to the Ravens. And was a great player, a tremendous person, and was stricken with ALS. But the Ravens did a great job of taking care of him and, keeping him involved in the organization. And I don't know if you ever met OJ, but man, oh man, that told me an awful lot about the organization, the way they treat their own. And Steve Bisciotti has a reputation around football people of being a guy you want to work for. And, I think they are one of the teams, Ben, that I've picked for a bounce back year, because I think this is going to be a good year for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just going back to OJ, that was a great example of the way that the Ravens look after their own. When I was in Baltimore, he'd retired, but obviously he won Super Bowl 35. He was on that team, and he was actually hosting at that time. He was hosting the weekly Ravens TV show on local affiliate network. Before, and obviously he was stricken with ALS, and I actually did a 5K run last year for it was a 5.7K run for 57 OJ for his foundation. They do an annual run, so I'd encourage people, if you look at that, because I think it's coming up, you can do it virtually, but OJ Brigance Foundation, definitely worth looking at. But yeah, I'm lucky to have worked, kind of, since I've started doing this. I've contacted the Ravens because we try and do a UK Ravens trip every year, and just from top to bottom, their class. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Ravens fan, but when they came over in 2017 for the Jags game, which let's not talk about the game, but the weekend was they got in touch with us because I had kind of a thing with the UK Ravens, and they said, "Well, do you want to come meet us in the Admiralty, which was the team pub for the Ravens?" And I went, "Yeah, okay," because I said we're looking for somewhere where we can basically have a Saturday night party for UK fans because it's the first time you've been over, and a lot of people haven't seen the team in Baltimore yet. So, and they said, "Okay, well, here's the bar. We've got this sort of downstairs place, and it's like the entire downstairs of the bar. Was this okay for you?" And I went, "Well, yeah. What do we need to? How much of this do we have, and what would it cost?" They goes, "No, you can have it." So the Saturday night before the game, they had they gave us this whole room. We got like 120 UK Ravens in to fill it. They sent down Poe, the cheerleader. Sorry, it was Poe, the mascot, and the cheerleaders. And then who should show up? But Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis, they just sent down to say hey, and they had photos with everyone in that room. They all lined up and they did photos with everyone, and it was just such a classic thing to do. Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about this. You just mentioned this, and this is Touchdown Trips. Now, the Beatles had a magical mystery tour, but you've got the All-Star Tour. Tell us what the All-Star Tour is all about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of links in with what I was saying about sort of the game day experience that I, was lucky to see every other Sunday in Baltimore, and why I started, this company was the Touchdown Trips. We started in 2016, just because I was in travel anyway. I love football, so I thought, well, let's try and combine the two, and also. I'd been to Wembley, and those are great days out, but you don't have the same kind of tailgatey atmosphere. You don't really have the weather. You don't have the crazy fans as much as well, and you also don't have that partisanship that you maybe get at a home game where 95% of the crowd are kind of rooting for one team rather than the other. So yeah, All-Star Tour. That's kind of we do like an annual multi-city tour every year. We've done Great Lakes before. We've done Deep South. We kind of did last year with Sunshine, so it was Florida and stuff because we thought everyone needed some sunshine after the last 2 years. This year we're looking at All-Star because we try and do like new places we haven't done yet on one of these tours. So this year, just the way the schedule lined up, we thought, well, let's do Thanksgiving. So we're going to Dallas. So we're flying in. We're staying at the Stockyards because I want everyone. Actually, I've got
in Fort Worth.
Yeah. This is me. This is me on a. You got to do this. You got to ride the bull.
Yeah,
so you got that at Billy Bob's. So we're staying at the Fort Worth Stockyards for 3 nights, and we're going to AT&T on Thanksgiving for the Giants game, and we'll do a tailgate before that. We got to do a tour of Jerry World on the Friday before we fly out, and we're going then to Nashville. Because Nashville was kind of promised for the 2020 tour, and then obviously we had to cancel that because of the pandemic. So I keep telling people that are coming back, okay, we'll try and do Nashville because it's a great. Last time I was in Nashville was 2009 for the AFC divisional game, which the Ravens may have won 13-10. But so we'll be there for a Vanderbilt game as well. So it's Vanderbilt against Tennessee on Saturday.
Ooh.
And yeah, so it's a rivalry, kind of a rivalry game. And then we've got Titans Bengals Sunday, which I'm looking forward to because it's good. This Bengals team are actually good to watch. And then we've got Monday driving. So we try and do a coach. So normally we do more coaches, but because of the cost of fuel, we had to limit the coaches this year. But we're going to drive from where we're going from Nashville to Indianapolis. We're stopping for lunch in Louisville, maybe see Lamar Jackson's old haunts or something, and then we'll get there mid-afternoon. We'll do Monday Night Football, which will be Colts Steelers, and then Tuesday we fly to Boston. Just because this is the way it works out on the schedule, and we'll do 3 nights. We'll do a tour of Fenway Park on Wednesday. Thursday we'll do Patriots Bills, which is going to be Thursday Night Football, which should be a good way to finish the tour. And then Friday we'll fly home. So it's 10 nights and 4 NFL games and 1 college game. Tour of Fenway, and I'm hoping we can slip in some kind of maybe an NBA or an NHL game in Boston if the schedule allows. So that's kind of what we do on these tours.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to have an amazing time because you talk about everyone. Cowboys Giants is a must. I mean, that's a must-watch NFL game. If it's like the Bears and Green Bay. It's one of those rivalry games. Tennessee and Cincinnati, right? Awesome game. You got the best running back in football and the best young quarterback in football in that game, and maybe the best young receiver in that game. And then you go Indianapolis and the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Man, and then you finish it. You're finishing it off in New England. And if you can't get to an NHL game, I'll tell you what, they play a brand of college hockey in Boston that is really, really good, and you can get to a Beanpot game. How many of these tours are you guys doing now?
Well, we used to just do 2, but we've got 9 set up for this year. That we've got, we do. Some fan groups get in touch with us, and we put it together. So the UK Packers, the UK and Irish. I must say Irish Packers because Steve's Irish. They do a tour to Green Bay every year, and that's just crazy. We put it on sale last week, and it basically sold out in 3 days. So we're trying to get more rooms at the moment because those Packers cheeseheads are just
hard to get rooms in Green Bay.
Yeah, I know it's okay. We're getting there with that, so we'll open that for sale again soon. But we're doing the Ravens one. But the one I like the most this year that I think is a great double header is because I love New Orleans, so I'm always trying to just get people to New Orleans because I think a lot of people in the UK they look at sort of New York and Orlando and sort of LA, San Francisco and stuff, but they kind of miss these kind of really authentic, flavorful US cities. And New Orleans is kind of up there with the Superdome being noisy as hell anyway. But this year we're flying out on the Friday, and then Saturday we've got LSU Alabama. At Tiger Stadium, and then Sunday we don't have a game because the game's Monday night, so we get to watch NFL Sunday on Bourbon Street or wherever we're going to be, and then Monday night is Saints Ravens, and then fly home Tuesday. So I mean that's a 4-night tour, and I really like that one. So I'd say anyone that's listening or watching this now that kind of wants to experience insane college game day, which would be LSU, and a really good NFL atmosphere on Monday night in the Superdome, I just think that's a really good combination. So but one thing I need to add as well is we're also offering the first ever women only NFL tour. It's called the Gridiron Girls Tour that we're doing this year. We're working with Phoebe Schechter on this, and we just, and this is my wife's idea because my wife's always saying, why do you always get to go and lead the tours? Because she's a big football fan too. I kind of converted her from Giants to Ravens when we met, but she's from Jersey, so but I said words because we always get a few inquiries every year of kind of, well, how, what's it going to be like? Is there a lot of guys on this coach and stuff? And there's such a burgeoning, enthusiastic female fan base that know as much, if not more, than the male fans over here. We just thought, well, let's put one out there and try and see if we can get enough girl fans on to go. And it's run by my wife, and it'll be all female.
Well, I tell you what, that's a fantastic idea. Now, go back to Alabama LSU.
Yeah.
Like that game right there. If you didn't do anything else, if you just flew there for that game and flew home, it would be worth twice whatever you're charged. I'm just telling you, because I have coached in that stadium in Death Valley, and I'll tell you a story. When I was a kid, right, Ben, we didn't have a lot of money. We had 5 kids, didn't have a lot of money. So on Saturday nights, like a big deal to us was my dad would throw us all in the car, a station wagon, Studebaker station wagon that we had. We'd drive to the A&W root beer stand, and you could buy root beer, little kid root beers for 5 cents, like that big, right? And the car radio could get WOWO New Orleans, which is LSU's flagship station in New Orleans. And so we would listen to LSU football games at night while we're drinking our 5-cent root beers. And that was our night out, right? And I can remember that, like, LSU would score a touchdown and you could not hear the guy'd be screaming into the microphone and you couldn't hear him. Now, that was when the stadium sat 85,000. It's over 100 now. Mm-hmm. So I'm coaching at Louisiana Tech. We go down to play LSU. And I call my mom and dad and said, hey, Mom and Dad, come on down. We're going to play LSU. It'll be a lot of fun. This is the stadium that we used to listen to the games at and all that stuff, right? So I asked the head coach, could my parents ride on the bus to the stadium? And you stay at the hotel in downtown Baton Rouge, and to LSU's campus, it's really small, little narrow streets, so the buses have to wind, and the entire campus is full of tailgaters. I mean, it is like everybody's in purple and gold. And everybody's been drinking since Tuesday, right? And people in Louisiana, South Louisiana is all Catholic, so they have fun down there, right? North Louisiana, well, not so much. But so my parents are on the bus, and we're driving through campus, and Ben, you start to drive through their tailgate, and they start pounding on your bus, boom, 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 and they're going, Tiger bait, Tiger bait, Tiger bait. So my mom's a little demure little woman, and we pull up to the back of the stadium and have a rise at the back of the stadium where the bus pulls up to let the players off to go in the stadium. Well, LSU has what they call Tiger Walk, and the team walks through the campus. College football, it does it the best, right? They walk through the campus, through all the fans, up onto this little knoll, through the band, and into the stadium. So we have to be there first. Well, they're beating on our bus and rocking our bus and all this stuff. And my mom, I let everybody else go off the bus. And I let my dad go, and then I get behind my mother and to help her down off the. And she's like 70 at this time, and they're screaming and yelling at you and all this stuff. And she gets to the bottom step of the bus as she's about to step off, and this old woman, almost as old as her, jumps right in front of her, and she gives my mom the one finger salute, and she goes, "We're gonna kick your ass." My mom was absolutely like, what in the heck is this? We go into the stadium, and it's an old stadium, so the pathways into the stadium are really narrow hallways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, LSU has a live tiger that they have at their games named Mike, right? And what they do with Mike is they take him and they put him in a cage on wheels, and they wheel him right next to the visitors' locker room, right? And so our team has to walk past this 500-pound tiger in a cage with bars that are this much space between the bars. And the cheerleaders, when your team gets right in front of Mike's cage, they start to beat on Mike's cage. So he goes, rah! Right. And I mean to tell you, that game was over before we teed the ball up, because and it's from the start of the game to the end of the game, it is nonstop noise, partying. And for Alabama, oh my God, that'll be a once in a lifetime experience for the people traveling with you. How does somebody jump on one of your tours? How do they find out what you guys are doing? What's the way to follow you?
It's Touchdown Trips, so that's kind of what everything is. So the website's touchdowntrips.com. The social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all just /touchdown trips. So if you go there, you can't really go wrong, because that's where we are.
Okay, now this is what I'm talking about. When we said that we mentioned that these fan focus segments are so special, because here's a guy that didn't even follow football till 2001, takes advantage of an opportunity to go to the United States, becomes a Ravens fan, and now has turned his passion into his business. And if you get a chance to do that, and I'd say you're a pretty lucky guy. So Ben, I appreciate you very much coming on. It's been awesome having you on. If you're interested in any of these trips, if you're interested in going to see either a college football game or a professional football game, get a hold of Ben at Touchdown Trips and make your dreams come true.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate having me on. Thank you.
You got it, brother. That's cool. I loved it. That was awesome. I tell you what, how about that? Didn't even follow football till 2001, and now has found a way to make his passion his living. And swear to God, like when he said Vanderbilt, Tennessee college football game, I said, ooh, that's a big game. Now, Tennessee usually smashes them, but it's a big football game, right?
Are we going?
Hey, listen, you don't ever have to ask me twice about going to a college football game. So I love college football. The passion of college football is just amazing.
That's like taking away the commercial thing here, everything, just talking generally as fans of the game. That tour that they've got planned around Thanksgiving is ridiculous,
isn't it?
Unbelievable. Like I'd love to do it. Like if not, like I mean, the thing is they do it every year. But if you're interested, check out the website. I think it's touchdowntrips.com. Touchdowntrips.com, at Touchdown Trips on Twitter. Maybe I can meet you halfway, Jeff.
The All-Star Tour. The All-Star Tour. And it is truly an All-Star Tour. But hey, listen, man, you couldn't go wrong with any of those games. But then you combine all those games and all the other things. Think about that. You get Nashville, Tennessee. It's a city ordinance. You got to have a good time when you're in Nashville, or they throw you out of the city. So New Orleans, no better party city in all of America. LSU Stadium on Saturday night, Death Valley. I mean, come on, man. That is awesome.
I think we're gonna have to do it, Jeff. I think we're gonna have to pull some strings and inform our other halves that we're going on Thanksgiving. You'll have to tell Sky that you're gonna have to do Thanksgiving from the stadium. There'll be no turkey. Here, we've got a few questions. Like, I mean, I know the first one here is from Owen, and thanks to Owen for commenting on YouTube as well tonight. Owen, really appreciate it, man. You can check the show out on YouTube as well, folks, if you want. Aloha, coach. Happy retirement to Romeo Crennel. What a great coach. Any stories about him? And Owen also said where he's from, which is Mumbles in Wales. I think it's in Wales, yeah. And a big congratulations to Wales for getting to the World Cup. First time in 58 years. So it's been 20 years since Ireland got, Jeff, and I'm just very jealous. But I'm very, very happy for the Welsh. Well done.
That's really a cool story. The first time in 50 years getting to the World Cup. That's an awesome, awesome thing. You know, it's funny. I think about Wales, and I remember. I think it was maybe the first time they did it in Cardiff. England went down to play rugby in Cardiff, and Johnny Wilkinson was the big star for the English team at that time.
You're going back a few years here, man. This is before my time.
It was such a cool thing, because I remember England comes out and they got their beautiful white uniforms on with the rose and the whole deal, and then they announced the Wales team, and the Wales team comes out of the tunnel, right? And it looked like they just drove through town to every bar they had and picked up guys on their way and gave them a suit to wear, right? And I'm thinking to myself, there is no way. I said, England will beat these guys by 50 points, right? And then all of a sudden, before the game, the entire crowd started to sing, right? And I thought, uh-oh, maybe not. And there was a young kid. You probably would. You're a rugby guy, so you would remember who he was. He's like a rock star in Wales, and he kicked the ball for Wales to win the game, and it was like it's the reason you watch.
What year are we talking here? Like what?
I can't remember, but I cannot remember. Maybe one of our viewers or listeners can come up with the guy's name, but he was like he was like a superstar. I mean, a superstar, and he had a
Gavin Henson, apparently. Is that
Gavin Henson?
Yeah, 2005. Owens has said that.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And it was awesome. It was just so cool because Wales was so proud, and they had knocked off the English, and so I thought that was cool. You talk about Romeo Crennel, and the thing that I would tell you in terms of a story is there are very few guys in football coaching that whenever you hear guys talk about them, it's always with reverential treatment, right? Like what a great guy he was, what a good human being, and Romeo Crennel was one of those guys. Everybody I know that had worked with him or worked for him or been around him, they all said the same thing. Class guy, even keel, great leader, all this stuff. And to see him now step away from the game, being in 50 years in the game, really a credit to him. And I hope he has a tremendous retirement, whatever he chooses to do.
We've got a few more questions, Jeff, before we bounce off for the week.
All right.
Take a bye week next week, yeah? Get you up for it? Yeah, I'm joking.
Oh, better than that.
Richard, I'm literally joking. Don't worry. Richard Moorcroft in England wants to say, Jeff, I'd love to know your thoughts on Tua going into his third year. Clearly, it's a prove-it year, but I actually thought he played really well in year 2, and have high hopes with having Hill, Waddle, Gesicki, Edmonds. Gesicki's an interesting one because we've seen Dalton Schultz, the tight end in Dallas, throw the toys out of the pram, and we're not talking about Jerry Jones here, but him and Gesicki are both. Am I correct in saying they're both franchise tagged, and both teams have got until the 15th of July to pay them? And if you look at the Cleveland Browns situation, where they end up paying a guy 15 million per year, something's got to give.
Well, I think here's what the franchise tag does. So we'll talk about the franchise tag and then we'll get to Tua. But when we talk about the franchise tag, Mike, what that can do is some teams will do it to get a player under contract, keep a player at a value less than they know he's worth, right? But it's a 1-year deal, right? What it also does, it buys you more time to negotiate with a player. So if you don't franchise tag him, he becomes a free agent. If you do franchise tag him, then you now have him locked in for the next year, but you have a period of time where you can negotiate with him and try and come up with a long-term solution. What's interesting about what Dalton Schultz did is when he doesn't show up for voluntary minicamp, he's basically throwing it back at the club. And you don't want to see that because there can be those things can be acrimonious. But again, it's just part of the whole negotiation process. If you're going to get your feelings hurt in the NFL, in NFL and the pro football negotiations, you're not going to last very long. About Tua, and I'm glad Richard brought this thing up because I have been a Tua fan since day one. Does he have limitations? Yes, he does. Biggest limitation to me isn't his arm strength, which is the one that everybody talks about. His biggest limitation to me is his ability to stay healthy. And part of that is he's not a very big guy. And so what has been a problem for him has been that he's been hurt some in his career so far. And let's face it, the guy's had how many offensive coordinators in a very short NFL career? It's very, very difficult to explain to somebody just how much that means to a quarterback, because the offensive coordinator and the quarterback have got to see things the same way. They've got to be on lockstep. Here he goes with, he has a rookie offensive coordinator, then he gets a veteran offensive coordinator, but it's the same old deal. Mike, you may say blue and you think it's the color of, the ocean. I say blue and it's the color of, it's navy blue, right? Well, it's still blue, but it's different. And so now the same thing's true. What do they call a curl route? They may call it a hook. They may call it a curl. It might be 12 yards deep. It might be 10 yards deep. That's all information and changes that he has to deal with. And then we add on to the fact that we've had shortened training camps, less preseason games, less reps. All of it's made it extremely difficult for him. And he's playing in front of an offensive line that has struggled to protect him. So it's not a great mix when you talk about developing a young quarterback. So I think this is a positive step. I think what is going to happen is the coaches in Miami now will do a good job of taking some pressure off of him with schematically, giving him things he can do. He's extremely accurate, makes good decisions, and he gets the ball up early. He's got plenty of arm for Tyreek Hill or any receiver that he has. So I think he's going into a prove-it year, yes, but every quarterback in the NFL, except for 3 or 4 or 5 of them, are all in prove-it years. And so for Tua, I'm pulling for him, and for the Dolphins, Coach McDaniel, I'm pulling for those guys that they're able to, get that thing going. They got the talent in there now, and they now just have to protect him and give him a chance to do his thing.
Pressure is always there, isn't it? Last question this week is from John, who is in Edinburgh, in Scotland, I believe. Edinburgh, Scotland. Who do you think will be quarterback one for the Steelers? And how do you think Kenny Pickett will go on in the NFL? I'm sensing that John might be a Steelers fan. I'm going to say Mr. Trubisky.
All right, you're going to say Trubisky, and I'm going to say before very long, it's going to be Kenny Pickett. And I think where they
do you think this season? Yeah, like as in this season.
I hope not. Frankly, I hope not for Kenny Pickett, because I'm concerned about guys playing too soon and getting beat up, and you got to look at that offensive line. No matter who's playing quarterback there, it may be Olicom, the 7th-round pick out of South Dakota State, maybe Kenneth Pickett, maybe Mitch Trubisky. It could be any of those guys. They got 4 quarterbacks in camp, but I just don't know how they're going to protect them with the offensive line that they got. It was bad last year. In defense of the offensive coordinator, I don't think we saw what Matt Canada can do last year. I think he was trying to work around, everything was a work around Ben Roethlisberger and his, declining skill set. Najee Harris is going to help him, but I just really think that we'll see that the guy that gives them the best chance is going to be Kenny Pickett. And not because Mitch Trubisky isn't athletic enough or doesn't have a big enough arm or any of those other things. I just don't know if he's a 1-year starter at North Carolina, goes to the Bears, has one decent year, defensive coordinators start getting more tape on him, and all of a sudden, he's now on what team, right? So for me, I would say Pickett by mid-season should be the quarterback.
Okay, I like it. I'm sure you're going to see plenty of him or plenty of the Steelers on Sky Sports this year with some of the games that they have him on. It's going to be a really interesting year to see for the Steelers this season. Have you any final comments to make on the show tonight, or have you anything you want to say?
I was really like, do you realize we had almost 5,000 people join the show just on Twitter last week? And for this time of year, that's outstanding. I want to thank everybody, all the tribe that stays with us all week long. Keep sending in your questions. Keep sending in your comments, your rants, all that stuff. Stay with us because it's going to get better as we go into the summer and closer to the season. I know for you are just about ready to go on summer vacation as a teacher. And what's going on with you?
I'm joining the Indianapolis Colts as a backup quarterback. Finally going to give it a go. Nothing's going on. Just having a quiet few weeks, and
Well, there's big news coming, I hear. And
is
so
there? Is it?
Yeah,
Jesus.
I hear there's big news for both of us coming. So fans got to stick around. Got to stick around if you remember the tribe. And do you know that we're inside now of 3 months till we have football again? Because we will.
It's 3 months this week, so it's 3 months tomorrow. Kickoff.
Kickoff, and I'm talking about
unlike 3 months.
Unlike you, I love football, Mike. So training camp is football to me. Did you see the training camp schedules got released today too?
Do you know I was that busy? I seen the announcement for the primetime preseason games, but I haven't seen it. So please invigorate me with some knowledge. I tell you what, I'm interested for, Jeff. I know that a lot of first teamers or starters don't play after the first preseason game. I am still intrigued to see certain players play the first game. Obviously, jealously, or I'd love to see Russell Wilson play our first few snaps for the Broncos, but you got the Raiders with their new additions. They played a Hall of Fame game. Might be too early for them, but there will be some sort of storylines in this preseason. And just going on your last question, Kenny Pickett, he's going to get a lot of time in preseason, I'd say.
Well, here's the thing, and this is great. This is great stuff to chop up because you think about it now. They've taken away a preseason game, right? So it's even more difficult for a young quarterback to be able to play early in his career, for a young player to make a football team. I think what's going on right now for Pittsburgh is critical. Every rep that Kenny Pickett gets right now is critical. And, the same thing's true, as you mentioned, Russell Wilson. I think it's true across the board where Marcus Mariota, all of the guys that are in that quarterback carousel that we have every year, for them to get with their clubs and start to develop a rapport with the receivers, with the coaches in the locker room, it's more than just what goes on in the practice field, right? And that's Coach Vermeil said it great. He used to say, you coach a team during the season, you build a team in the off season, and I think that's really a truism.
It's a bit like this show, isn't it? We're building and building. I like it.
We're doing it, baby. We're doing it.
Don't worry. There's no bye week next week. I'm joking. There might be a bye week in 2 weeks. I'm gonna fly to Nest for a week. I can see you're getting worried already at the prospect of this. We haven't had a week off in nearly 2 years. So
Who
huh?
needs time off? That's really overrated.
I think we could say we take a week off, but then we do what Neil's done. We go to Jacksonville and meet like Trevor Lawrence and stuff, and just mess about. And
Hey,
have
I
a bit of
can't
fun
wait.
and interviews.
Cannot wait to hear all the interviews that he did down there and what his impressions of Doug Peterson and the mini camps that they got going on. Because when you go into a new program, you get additional time with your team, which is an important factor.
And you've Inside the Huddle come up. Is it this Thursday? Yeah.
Actually, we're not going to have one this week. We're going to take a mic.
Bye week.
We're going to take a mic.
I did not
We're
know
going to
this.
take a mic.
I did not bring this
and
up.
come
I
back
genuinely didn't know.
come back next week. Hey, am I going to see you at the Nebraska versus Northwestern game, or what's going on? Do you got tickets? Are you going?
I'm hoping to go with media and how shut up sort of thing is that. But I'm hoping to go to the game. If needs be, I'll buy tickets. You can get tickets on Ticketmaster.e right now. There's my plug. I'm hoping to go. I live about 90 minutes from the stadium, so I'll definitely be there. I'm treating it the same as a London game for me because it's a big thing for us being able to jump on a train or drive down to a game. So I don't know. Are you going to be there? Are you going to be? Yeah, I mean, like Jeff, you've done Croke Park. Are you going to do the other stadium, or what's the plan?
I gotta go. I'm hoping to be there. And if I'm there and you're there, then the whole tribe's got to be there.
I like it. Let's see, and we'll leave it at that for now. But I'll see you next week, and there'll be no bye week. Don't worry. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Take care. Aloha.
Take care.